How do we find the equation of a line? We've talked about how we can use an equation of a line to draw a line, but how, if we're given information about this line, so for example we're given the slope and a point, can we then come up with the equation of the line? Well, it turns out that indeed to find the equation of the line, all you do need is the slope and a point. And we know that because the slope is calculated from 2 points, all therefore we really need is 2 points. So how would we calculate it? Well, we've got our slope formula, which says that the slope equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the slope formula. But if I've got that formula, and instead of just writing it as y2 take y1 and x2 take x1, I'm going to do a general y formula, y variable, and a general x variable. And then I'm actually going to use specific numbers for y1 and x1, and a specific number for slope. Let me show you what I mean. So if I've got a slope as being equal to 8 over 5, for example, and my point is equal to 2, 3, what I can simply do is put those numbers into the formula above, like so. So instead of slope, I'm going to write 8 over 5. And then instead of y2, I'm going to write y. Just the general variable y. And take away from that y1. So I'm going to call this point x1, y1. So I'm going to take away 3, or y1. And then I'm going to do the general formula x, and take away from that x1, which is 2. So there we go. I've got actually an equation of a line right there. That's the equation of a line, but it's not in a form that we like, so we're going to rearrange that. And how do we do that? We cross multiply. If we've got fractions and we want to get that denominator of x take 2 up the top, we're going to cross multiply, get rid of the fractions, and so we're going to get 8 bracket x take 2 is equal to 5 bracket y take 3. If you've forgotten how to do that, remember that we simply multiply this denominator here, this numerator here, by this denominator here, and this denominator here by this numerator here. Once we've got that, we can just expand. So we can write this as 8 times x by 8 times negative 2, so that's going to be 8x take 16, and that's going to equal 5 times y, which equals 5y, and 5 times negative 3, which is negative 15. So we get 8x take 16 equals 5y take 15, almost in general form. Remember though, when we're in general form, we want to get the equation ideally equal to 0, so I'm going to do 8x, and I'm going to take 5y from both sides, just to move the y's onto this side of the equation. So I'm going to go 8x take 5y equals negative 15, and I forgot to put in my minus 16. So I'm just going to move that plus 15 over the negative 15 over to the right hand side. So I'm going to plus 15 to both sides, and I'm going to get 8x take 5y, negative 16 plus 15 is negative 1, is equal to 0. And so that's my final answer. So that's one method of doing it. It's not that complicated, but there's actually a trick which really helps when we're doing this. So I've just written these 2 rules here, and they're 2 rules which are really important for you to remember because it enables you to do this really, really quickly. They say that if the equation of a line with a gradient a over b, so remember gradient just means slope, so a over b could be something like the slope is equal to 2 over 3, so a would be 2 and b would be 3, actually has the general form ax take by equals c. So we literally put the a in front of the x, whatever number that is, so that would be in this case 2x. Then if it's a positive here, that becomes a negative in there, and then the b in front of the y, whatever that denominator is in front of the y, and that's equal to c, and we'll talk about what c is in a bit. Similarly, the equation of a line with gradient negative a over b has the general form ax plus by equals c. So instead of take by, it's plus by. Why is that? Well, if we think about the slope of 2 over 3, remember the slope is equal to change in y over change in x. So why does the 2 go with the x and the 3 go with the y? Because that's what we're saying, isn't it? We put a in front of the x and b in front of the y. Well, that's because, remember, up here, we cross-multiplied. So yes, we started off with a as 8 as the numerator, and y take 3 as the numerator. And I'm talking about up here now. So we started off with that. And we started off with 5 as the denominator and x take 2 as the denominator. But then we cross-multiplied. And so those two went together, and those two went together. And so that's why that swap over happens. So how does that work, actually, with an example? Well, let's go back to our example where we have this, where we have the slope equal to 8 over 5, and we've got the point 2, 3. Point equal to 2, 3. So the slope a over 5, well, that's equal to a over b. I'm just going to say that. So 8 over 5 equals a over b. So that's going to mean that a equals a and 5 equals b. So I'm going to write it in this format. I'm going to write ax, so I'm talking about this one here. Ax is going to be 8x. Take by, so b is 5. Okay, so take 5y, and that's going to equal c. Now what's c? Well, c is actually a number that is formed by substituting in the point. So can you see we've got 8x take 5y. We've got x and we've got y. If we want to get a number on this right hand side, we can remember that this point up here that goes into this line is also x, y. So we just substitute in the point. So instead of putting x, I'm going to go, that's 8 times 2, because that's the x value here, and that's going to be 5 times 3, because that's the y value there. So I'm going to get 8x take 5y equals 8 times 2, which is 16, take 5 times 3, which is 15. So my answer is going to be 8x take 5y equals 1. And if I transfer that over to the left hand side, that's going to be 8x take 5y take 1 equals 0, which is exactly the same as what I had before. So what did I do? Well, I said the slope, which equals 8 over 5, is actually equal to a over b. And so therefore, I use this little rule up here that says I form an equation like this. This equation right here. And so the a goes in front of the x. Because it's a positive slope, it becomes negative. The b goes in front of the y. And then finally, to get c, I substitute in the point. I'm going to do another quick example on that one. So I'm just going to go with this example. I'm going to do an example when I have 2 points this time. I have the point 2, 3 and the point 5, 7, and I want to find the equation. Okay, so I want to find. Now remember what we need to be able to find the equation? We need the slope and a point. Do we have the slope? No, we don't. But we have 2 points, and if we ever have 2 points, we can find the slope. So when we're doing steps here, we go 1, find the slope. Then we go 2, use the formula. So either that, if the slope is a over b, then it's going to form ax take by equals c. Or if it's negative a over b, it's going to form ax plus by equals c. And then we 3 sub in the point and rearrange. And once you practice doing a few of these, it should become a little bit second nature. So I'm going to find the slope. And so to find the slope, I'm going to use the tried and tested slope formula. So let's substitute points into that slope. So again, remember, whenever you're finding the slope, you write underneath here x2, y2, and x1, y1, so you don't get it confused. So your slope is going to equal y2 take y1, so y2 is 7, y1 is 3, so that's going to be 7 take 3, over x2 take x1, so that's going to be 5 take 2. So 7 take 3 is 4, 5 take 2 is 3, your slope is 4 over 3. Again, that is a positive slope. So I'm going to use, therefore, this formula down here. So I'm going to, therefore, form the line 4x take 3y, and that's going to equal, well, now I'm going to substitute in the point 4. Now, which point do I choose? Doesn't matter. Whichever point you want to do, I'm going to use this point up here. So that's going to be 4 times 2 take 3 times 3. So that's going to be 8 minus 9, which equals minus 1. So 4x take 3y equals minus 1. And if I want to get that y onto the left-hand side, which I do, it's going to form 4x take 3y plus 1 is equal to 0. And that is my answer. So hopefully that helps with solving those